This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, Bruchim Abam, welcome everyone. This is, we're finishing up Sefer Shemais, so we want to thank the sponsor of Sefer Shemais. We don't have all the details here for technical reasons, but we want to thank the Zakheim family for sponsoring the Shiurim on Sefer Shemais, Lila Nishmas, their father, their husband, Reb Shlomo Eliezer Zakheim, the Neshama Shenab and Aliyah, B'Yomei Yosef for their whole family, Ad Bias Goyal Tzedek, and also Lila Nishmas, Dr. Zakheim's mother. The Shiurim on Chodesh Adar are dedicated by the Israeli family, Lila Nishmas, their father and grandfather. Tonight's Shiur is dedicated by our good friend Reb Eli Babayev, Lila Nishmas, Avraham Albert Ben Esther. Tonight is the yahrzeit. This week, tonight is the 3-month yahrzeit. Tonight is the 3-month yahrzeit. So we wish the family, his neshama shavna aliyah, B'gan Eden, Tehei Menuchasai, B'yomei Yosef for his whole family, Ad Bias Goyal Tzedek. Also, tonight's Shiur is dedicated by Rabbi Yaakov Mizrahi. Okay, first I want to speak a little bit about Vayakhel-Pekudei together, and then something amazing that we encounter about the upcoming Chodesh Nisan. First, let's talk about the word lahayros. The Rebbeinu Shalom says that there were many people who contributed to the making of the Mishkan. You had people who were choyshev machashavos. You had charash, choyshev, artisans, kol ish asher nadav liban, kol ish asher nesa'oi libai. But we have a special talent that B'Tzalel had. The pasuk says, "Ula hayros nasan belibai," to instruct, to teach. God put in his heart. What does that mean? To instruct, God put in his heart. What talent did B'Tzalel have that other people didn't have? He had the talent of lahayros. What exactly is the talent of lahayros? So Rabbi Aaron Leib Steinman in his Sefer Ayelos HaShachar points out from the Ibn Ezra that there are many very bright people who have deep understanding of material. You could have somebody who's brilliant and he could look at a sugya and he could cut to the chase of it and he could understand the Rashi and the Tosfos. But ask him to say it over, he can't formulate, he can't coherently express it. He understands it crystal clear. He cannot convey it in a cogent manner. Why? From here we learn, Yesh chachamim rabim shechachmasam belibam, but shalayadu lelamed. Lelamed is a special matana. Lahayros nasam belibai. Says Rabbi Aaron Leib Steinman, the Ibn Ezra points out that being able to convey information clearly is a special gift. In other words, if you can't say it over, it doesn't mean you don't understand it. It may mean you don't have that ability. It's interesting, Rapam would say that whenever you're speaking, you always have to clarify 3 things. You have to know what to say, you have to say what not to say, which is even more important, and you have to know how you're going to say it. There are many people who have a lot of good things to say, but they're not listenable to, because it's so mixed with so much garble and other extraneous material that it clouds what is being presented. So Rapam would say you always have to know what yes to say, what not to say, and how you plan to convey it. In other words, the idea is somebody could understand something and yet not be able to say it over. Which is, Rav Aaron Leib Steinman says, in contradistinction to what Reb Chaim Brisker famously said, that if you can't explain something, it means you don't understand it. So when I was in 9th grade, I had our Rebbe was Rav David Harris, Shlita, who later became the Rosh Hashiva in Chafetz Chaim. So he would always say it over. So he said, I understand the Rebbe, but I can't say it. No. If you can't say it, you don't know it. He would say it over like you would explain it to your sister. Meaning with that, she doesn't know any background information, she doesn't know the process. If you can't explain something to your sister, then you don't understand it. The Gra also says that it's possible to know something but not be able to explain it because there's a certain lack of clarity of your understanding, which is different than what Rabbi Aaron Leib Steinman is saying. Rabbi Aaron Leib is saying you could understand something perfectly and yet not be able to say it over. That's a special gift. But Reb Chaim would famously say, if you can't explain it, you don't understand it. Okay, I want to speak about certain phrases in Parshas Vayakhel. And that phrase, those two phrases are, the pasuk says, Milei oisam chachmas leiv lasois kol meleches charash v'choyshev. Okay, we're going to play a little game now. What does the word charash mean? Dun dun. Anyway, what does the word charash mean? Carpenter. Carpenter. Very good. Mr. Itzkowitz gets the Hoover vacuum cleaner. A carpenter. Okay. What's a choyshev? A weaver. Why is a weaver called a choyshev? A thinker? And why put a carpenter near a weaver? These are two completely different professions. And the Ksava HaKabbalah, Rabbi Yaakov Tzvi Mecklenburg, develops an idea, a very interesting idea, that in this world, who makes the money? The one who does the labor? Usually not. It's the one who had the idea. It's the one who conceived the plan. The one who conceptualizes what needs to be done, not the one who actually does it. Usually the one who does it is not the one who's rewarded the most. Usually it's the one who thinks of how to do it. He's the one who cashes in the most. And it's the same thing in almost every area in life. The word charash, which means carpenter, what else does charash mean in Hebrew?
Engraver.
Charash can mean, right, to plow. Charisha, plowing. So what's the comparison, what's the similarity between plowing and a carpenter? The answer is, let's say you call him a carpenter. Is it enough just to know how to cut something with a saw? Is that all he needs to know? Oh, bring in the carpenter. He knows how to chisel with the saw. Bring in the carpenter. He could cut. He could edge. No. The main talent of the carpenter is if he could envision what will happen if he does X, Y, and Z. It's the conception. It's the idea. It's the planning. It's the formalization of a plan, which is the main skill of carpentry. Of course, he needs to know the manual labor, but the great skill is the ability to conceive and to plan. It's the same thing with plowing. What's plowing? Making a hole in the ground? Plowing is being able to think, what's going to happen if I make a hole and put in a seed and water it and cultivate it? So the skill of yeah, I know. Yeah, sure. There are a lot of people, of course, now.
Curious if they could hear you.
Could you hear me? No. Could you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. The skill of carpentry or of plowing is not in the manual labor, it's not in the menial labor. It's the ability to conceive and to plan. And what we're going to learn now is we know that there are two Parshios in the Torah about the Mishkan. There's Truma and there's Vayakhel-Pekudei. What exactly is the difference between Truma and Vayakhel and Pekudei? So let's start with number 5. Take a look in the pasuk. It says, "Ve'asisa es hakrashim la Mishkan esrim keresh." 20 plank. Is that correct or is that a mistake? Oh, could you bring me the 20 plank? Does that make sense? Should say krashim. Baruch Hashem in Vayakhel, the Torah made sure to write it correctly, right? Vayas is going to esrim krashim. So first thing is, what's going on in Truma? Why does it say esrim keresh? And second of all, why the inconsistency? Why in Truma esrim keresh and in Vayakhel esrim krashim? Okay, that's the big question. You hear the question, Mabeitan? In Truma it says esrim keresh, 20 plank, and in Vayakhel it says esrim krashim, 20 planks. Which one is right? L'chayra it should be esrim krashim, 20 planks, plural. And in general, in Lashon Kodesh, we have the following dilemma. Remember, in Kabbalah Shabbos, Arba'im Shana, Arba'im Shana, 40 year ago, It should say Arba'im Shanim Makot Bedar. What is this expression, Arba'im Shana? Why does the Torah write it like this? Or Zeli Esrim Shana. Yaakov says these 20 year, Arba'im Shana. You ready? This is a great rule in Hebrew grammar, in Lashon HaKodesh. When does it say, it's usually Shana Achas, Shtei Shanim, or is it, sometimes it's Shtei Shana? And the answer is, it all depends. What does it depend on? It depends how you're viewing it. It depends whether you're in the stage of conception or execution. When you're conceiving how to build the Krushim, when you're conceiving how to build the wall, is it enough to think about, okay, I'm going to have 20 planks? No, you need to understand how these 20 planks will fuse together as one unit. Because if you don't know how they're going to fit together, it's very nice you have 20 planks, but when you come to put it together, they're not going to fit. So you need to plan, you need to conceive, you need to somehow figure out how these 20 planks will become one unit. So in the stage of planning, it's Esrim Keresh. Truma is not the making of the Mishkan. Truma is the command, the conception of the idea of the Mishkan. So therefore in Truma it's Esrim Keresh. How many years were we in the Midbar? 40 individual years? Or a 40-year unit? We were in the Midbar, a 40-year unit. God says, you're going to be in the Midbar 40 years. So Zeli Arba'im Shana, Shana. 40, it's a one unit. Whenever a multiplicity of items is a unit, then it says Lashon Yachid, even though it's many. Whenever it's separate, then it says plural. So in Vayakhel, when they were making the Krushim, so let's imagine for a second, did they all of a sudden have this 20 plank unit that they just plop down? Of course not. They put one plank, then they put a second plank, then they put a third plank. So in Vayakhel, when they constructed it, it's Esrim Krushim. In Truma, when they conceived it, when it was planned, it's Esrim Keresh. Got it? That's why it's Arba'im Shana. Zeli Esrim Shana. Shivim Nefesh. Because they were one. Very good. Okay, so let us proceed now. Now we have a basic understanding of the difference between Truma and Vayakhel. Truma is the conception of the Mishkan. Vayakhel is the actual construction of the Mishkan. Okay. The Asisa, God is saying, God is commanding, you should make the Krushim. So in that stage, there was an idea, there was a plan. That in the idea stage, it's one unit. In the execution stage, it's many different parts. Okay, question. Are you allowed to take the poles out of the Orion? Anybody know? No. Is it like, is it Asr Midrabanan? It's a minhag not to take out the poles. Isser Dairaisa. It's one of the 613 mitzvahs. It's a lav. Betaba'ois ha'arayin yiyu habadim loy yasuru mimenu. You cannot take them out. If we warn a guy, don't take out the poles, and he takes out the poles, we take out lashes, and we give him 39 lashes. It's a lav in the Torah. Okay? Let's take a look in Vayakhel. Check this out, number 8. Vayas B'tzalel es ha'arayin atzei shitim amasayim v'chitzi arkim am v'chitzi rach b'am v'chitzi kamasay. B'tzalel makes the arayin made out of shitim wood, 2.5 amos long, 1.5 amos wide, 1.5 amos tall. He covers it with pure gold from the inside and the outside. He makes a gold crown around it, and he casts 4 gold rings on the 4 corners. 2 on one side, 2 on the other. Vayas bade, he makes badim. Vayove es habadim bat habois al tzalois ha'arayin loses es ha'arayin. He puts the badim in the rings to carry the arayin. Question, what? This is not true. It's not true. The badim of the arayin were to carry the arayin? Were they? Were the badim of the arayin to carry the arayin? Actually, they weren't. Why? Because the Orion carried anyone who carried it. So the purpose of the Badim was not to carry the Orion. So why would the Torah write that the purpose of the Badim is to carry the Orion? Actually in Pekudei, it says make Badim, and it doesn't say to carry the Orion. It just says make them. That's more correct. Look at number 9. In Pekudei, Vayikach, Vayitein es ha'arayin, Vayosem es habadim ala arayin. Moshe put the badim on the arayin. Why doesn't it say Laseis es ha'arayin, like it says by the badim of the shulchan and the mizbeach? The answer is because the badim are not to carry the arayin. So why when Betzalel made it, does it say Betzalel made the badim to carry the arayin? That's not true. And the proof is that when Moshe put the badim in the arayin, it doesn't say they're to carry the arayin. Furthermore, I want to know who was the wicked person who took out the badim after Betzalel put them in, so that Moshe had to put them back in again. Why is Moshe putting them in? Betzalel put them in Vayakhel. How's Moshe putting them in Pekudei? Someone took them out? Who took them out? Raise your hand if you were the one. You look a little guilty. Who took out the badim?
The badim were the rings.
The badim are the poles.
The poles.
The badim are the poles that went into the rings. That went into the tabais. So in Vayakhel it says, make poles to carry the arayin. A, they're not to carry the arayin. B, in Pekudei, it doesn't say they're to carry the arayin. In Pekudei it says Moshe put in the poles. In Vayakhel it says Betzalel put in the poles. So who's the guy? Just if you admit now, nothing will happen to you. If you say now you did it, you get off easy. Just like a $35 fine, no points on your lap. Who took him out? Who was over the lav? So, I heard from Rabbi Yonason Sachs, who's a Rav in the Aguda in Passaic, that actually somebody showed me tonight that Rabbi Gnat, my friend Daniel Weinstein showed me that Rabbi Gnat said this detail over from Rabbi Yoshe bar Soloveitchik, but I think Rabbi Sachs added an akuda. The chidush is that you're not allowed to take poles out of an arayin. But what makes it an arayin? It needs to have luchais. It doesn't have luchais, it's not an arayin yet. It's luchais, it's arayin ha'edos. Vayakhel, they didn't put the luchais in. So there was no issue to take out the poles. And so the question is, so what were the poles doing in the arayin if it wasn't an arayin? Before they put in the luchais that it wasn't an arayin, the poles were actually to carry the arayin. But once they put in the luchais and it became an arayin, they're not needed anymore to carry the arayin, but now you're not allowed to take them out. So Vayakhel is when Betzalel made them. He made the arayin, but he never put in the luchais. Without the luchais, it doesn't have the halachic status of an arayin. So if it doesn't have the halachic status of an arayin, you're allowed to take out the poles. Someone took out the poles. It's not a big deal. You're allowed to take out the poles. What was the function of the poles? The function of the poles was the same reason you have poles for the mizbeach and the shulchan, to carry it. But once they put in the luchais, and now the arayin is magically able to carry those who carry it, the poles are no longer for the purpose of carrying it, and now you can't take them out anymore. Okay. Now we come to another unbelievable thing. Look at number 12. The pasuk says, "V'asu arayin atzei shitim." You should make an arayin of shitim wood. Huh? V'asu? What is v'asu? Anyone here speak Lashon Kodesh? Any Jewish people here? V'asu. Lashon Yachid or Lashon Rabim? Rabim. So who's God talking to? Truma is addressed to Moshe. Every other detail in Truma is v'asisa, v'tzipisa, v'asisa, you. And by the arayin it says v'asu, and you plural. All you should make. Who's all of you? Who's all of you over here? So the Ramban says the arayin was different than any kli. By everything else it says v'asisa, v'yatzakta, v'asisa, v'tzipisa, b'lashon yachid. But by the arayin it says v'asu, because the arayin, everyone had to have a chelek in the Torah. Like the Medrash says, why by all the kelim does it say v'asisa, and here it says v'asu? Amar Rabbi Yehuda bar Shalom, Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Yavayu HaKoil v'yisasku ba'arayin sheyizku l'Torah. So now the question is, what did everyone do to have a part in the Orion? What did everybody do? What everybody came out, you had imagine this. There's this little box, and all of a sudden you had 3 million Jews coming running with hammers. Oh, imagine what that looked like. Everyone made the Orion. You had a guy, what does he do for a living? He paves roads with cement. So he's coming, the guy's in his overalls, coming with a big hammer. To do what exactly? To bang on the Orion? So what, 3 million Jews were involved in making the Orion? So Ramban gives 3 answers. Everyone donated. That we could write. We don't trust the guy to bang in a nail, but we'll take his money. Right? That's the first possibility. Everyone donated. Or everyone helped a little bit, Betzalel's like, pass the hammer. So there was like this long conveyor belt, one guy to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, until 3 million people then handed it to Betzalel. That's the second answer of the Ramban. The third answer of the Ramban is so powerful. You know what everybody did? Everyone was mechavein to participate. Everyone thought, I'm part of this. Did anyone do anything? No. Could everyone do anything? No. So what significance is it that they thought they want to be part of it? From here we learn the power of thought. We learn the power of machshava. That if you see someone doing something good, and you're not part of it, at the very least you should think, I would like to be part of it. I wish I could be part of it. I'm joining in. What are you doing exactly? What do you mean you're joining in? You're standing there in the back. What are you joining in? My thoughts are with them. I'm thinking about them. I'm with. My mindset is with them. That's very powerful. That's like you have a chelek in it. You didn't contribute. You didn't do anything. Your machshava alone is enough to give you a certain chelek. That's why the Orion, which represents the Torah, everyone needed to have a chelek in it. Okay, that's what the Ramban says. Kasha on the Ramban, really? Everyone has to have a chelek in the Orion? Then why by every other detail of the Orion does it say, Vitzi Pisa, you should coat? It should say, Vitzi Poi, all of you should coat. Or, V'asisa Zer Zahav, you should make a gold crown. It should say, V'asu, all of you should make. If, in fact, everyone has to have a chelek in the Orion, then why is the Lashon Rabim only on the first pasuk, pasuk Yud, the Asu Aroin Atzei Shitim? Ready for this? Chidush? And then we're going to go on to the next thing. The next thing, your grandmother, when she was lighting Hadlakas Neiros 100 years ago, when she cried, she was mispalel. Now, that's why you're going to be zoichet to hear the second shir. The second shir is, you have to have zchusim to come down to this world to hear the second one. The kasha is, why, if everyone has to have a chelek in the Orion, then why does it say Lashon Rabim only by the first detail? So I heard in the name of Rav Asher Weiss, Rav Asher Zalag Weiss, Shlita, one of the great Paiskei Doirenu, he says the Orion has 2 dimensions to it. What are the 2 dimensions of the Orion? Do you remember in Parshas Eikev, Moshe Rabbeinu goes up to Har Sinai, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave Moshe the Luchos. And Hashem says, go down with the Luchos. Moshe said, where should I put it? God says, look in number 14. I'm going to give you the Luchos. Make a wooden box. A wooden box? The Orion was wood? Why did Hashem tell Moshe to make a wooden box? What about the gold on the inside and the gold on the outside? Says Rav Asher Weiss, from here we learn the Orion has 2 dimensions to it. It had a dimension that it housed the Luchos, and it had a dimension, it was one of the Kalim of the Beis HaMikdash. The dimension that it housed the Luchos, what was needed to house the Luchos? The wooden box, the wooden middle box. The wooden middle box was its dimension of an entity that housed the Luchos Habris. The gold on the inside, on the outside, that was the dimension that it's a kli like all the other kelim of the Beis HaMikdash. All the kelim of the Beis HaMikdash were gold. The shulchan was gold, no wood on the inside. The menorah was gold. The Orion was also gold. So the Orion had two elements. It had the element, it was a box to house the luchos, and the proof that the wooden box was the element that housed the luchos is because when Hashem told Moshe, come upstairs, I'm going to give you the luchos, Hashem said, make a wooden box. You don't need gold right now. You only need gold for when the Orion is in the actual Mishkan.
What is a box within a box?
There were three boxes, right? The Torah says, coat the Orion, make a wooden box, and coat it on the inside and the outside with gold. Which Rashi explains means there were three boxes, an inner one of gold, a middle one of wood, an outer one of gold. So the middle one of wood, that its function was to house the luchos. The inner and the outer one was so that it looks like one of the kalim of the Mishkan. So therefore it comes out very beautiful. What's the reason why the Orion was different, that everyone has to have a chelek in the Orion? Well, how's the Orion different than the menorah, different than the shulchan? Because the Orion represents the Torah. Which part of the Orion do you think represents the Torah? The wooden box or the golden boxes? The wooden box. So therefore it comes out very beautiful, says Rav Asher Weiss. Ve'asu Aroin atse shitim. You, plural, make the wooden box. Everyone has to have a chelek in the wood. The other details, the gold, you coat it in gold, you make the golden crown, because that's not the part, that's not the dimension of the Orion that represents the Torah. That's the dimension of the Orion, that it's a kli like any other kli in the Mishkan. So it comes out very beautiful in the reading of the Psukim. So, you read these Parshios, and, we gloss over all of these discrepancies, Krashim, Keresh, Ve'asu, Ve'tzipisa, but every detail of the Torah is laden with tremendous, tremendous meaning. And really, the Mishnah says in Soita, when Rabbi Gamliel died, Batla Kavarat Torah. The Mishnah also says when Rabbi Akiva died, Batla Kavarat Torah. So how could both of them? Rabbi Gamliel always would stand up when he would learn. And when he passed away, weakness came down to the world, and people were not able to stand anymore. Rabbi Akiva displayed a different kind of Kavarat Torah. Rabbi Akiva darshaned every crown of every letter in the Sefer Torah. There's two different types of Kavarat Torah. One is an outward display of honor, that was Rabbi Gamliel. But Rabbi Akiva's Kavarat Torah, the greatest Kavarat Torah is to show that every detail of the Torah has tremendous significance. So when a person devotes time to the minutia of aspects of the Torah, that's the greatest Kavarat Torah, because you're showing everything is so significant and everything is so important. Okay? That's share number 1.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.